All right, go. Okay, the P200 has a fantastic Sony image module. It gives you 30 times zoom, great for any size room. It's great in low light and has awesome color rendition. On top of that, we have our BirdDog NDI processing engine, which gives you the highest quality pictures at the lowest latency. It's compatible with any NDI device on the planet and just gives you the best outputs. We have our brand new user interface with NDI version 5, which gives you waveforms and vector scopes to make sure you're properly exposed. It also gives you unlimited control as far as color control and using your camera. In addition to this, it sounds strange, but we can do pan, tilt and zoom at the same time. Try some other cameras, they can't all do it. The P200 is a fantastic camera that's got every type of connection you can want, from NDI with power over Ethernet, SDI, HDMI, any control interface. It's got a great big tally on the top. It's a really great camera. How to do with the time? And the cool thing is, for a limited time, if you buy 3 P200s, you get a free PTZ controller.
What's going on, everybody? I am BirdDog John. Thanks for joining us today, and we are going to kick things off here. It is 1 a.m. in Melbourne right now, and that is exactly where I am. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Robbie to the show. What's going on, man? All right, let's see. Hey, what's going on, Judson?
Hey, thanks for having me.
I do much more. We are joined with BirdDog Ian, who is at the Capture Summit over in Atlanta. So how's it going, man?
Hot and sweaty.
That's the most important question that our team can ask. Why are you needing this camera?
Now, I haven't tested this thing since it got here. This is something that I'm really excited that NDI did. That's cool. Obviously, there are lots of flavors here, but this is the 4250 line. And our little friend here. Say hello to my little friend. It's brewing in the back of my throat. Based on the recommendation of Senseless, we're going to give a Java Monster a try.
Oh, yeah, Pocky,
We
dude.
got a little Pocky, and
Yes.
I have been putting this off for an age.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
There is a Snacks on Stream mystery box brought to you by my Snacks on Stream manager, Brayton. What's going on, Bugsy?
There you go. What's going on? Bali, good to see you, man.
What's going on, NetHab? Hey, what's going on, Judson? And hey, Kevin, good to see you, man. What's going on, Jeremy? How are you? Thanks for jumping on. Oh, it's all good.
Here we go!
Let's see if that makes a difference. Jeez. Be helpful if I turn the audio on. Not too sure how I missed that. I certainly didn't mute the audio today, but yeah, good times. Hey, this is a professional show. How's it going, everybody? I am BirdDog John. Hopefully you're doing well. Thanks for hanging on while we have our little audio glitches, but things seem to be coming through on the other side. So people have reported no sound, and now they can hear it. So fantastic. That's all good. Greetings from India. What's going on, GoWeb? Always first. So good stuff. Oh, and from Stockholm, Sweden, welcome. I've attempted to say your name more than once, and I know I've butchered it both times. So there you go. Yes, NetHab. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, GoWeb. Everybody in on the same. And now we can hear it. Yeah. Okay. So apparently, if you hit the mute button, no audio goes through. So there's that. Lesson learned. I didn't know that I hit the mute button, but then again, stranger things have happened. So all right, we're all back on board. Hey, what's going on? Vancouver. That's fun. That's nice. What time is it over there? We're 4 hours ahead of you. So It's just getting started over there, right? 7, 8 o'clock, something like that. 7 o'clock, maybe. I've only been to Vancouver twice, and it was to Victoria, and that was fun. But it was only for like an evening both times. So I was on a cruise ship, so it was a shame that I didn't get to spend more time over there. But that's been my exposure, and I'm from Toronto, so I feel like I should probably visit there. But anyways, yeah, hasn't happened yet. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. Maybe it will be more than like 5 hours. Starting at, I think the ship docked at like 6 or 7, something like that. It was right around dinner time that it docked. And then we spent the day over there. More on that in a minute. I do want to answer this question, though. Hey, any news on Silicon 2 for encoders yet? The answer is no. There's no news. They always say no news is good news, but not in this case. We just haven't had an update on it yet, and so that's that's the deal. It's a long time coming, and we get that for sure. But yeah, we have not heard of any updates for Silicon 2 yet for encoders or for cameras for that matter. So Silicon 2 is still in development. That's for sure. 8 a.m. It's a wonderful place to live. That's great. Where in Vancouver as in the city, not the region. You want to go more specific than just Vancouver? That's like saying I'm from Toronto, but really I'm from like Caledon, which is not really in Toronto. But yeah, Vancouver, beautiful place, really is. My trip we went on an Alaskan cruise back in 2019, right before pandemic, like months before it. And then this past July, we took the kids, and that was a different experience. One was a vacation and one was an adventure, and I'll let you decide which is which. But it was good. And yeah, both times we docked in Victoria. The first time was a lot easier than the second time. That was back in the ArriveCan app days. Thank you, Trudeau government, for that. And oh man, the pandemonium that was the ArriveCan app, the watching the Americans struggle with downloading an app, which seems like second nature now, and figuring it out. To its credit, the ArriveCan, at the time that I used it in July, which I had used it before, but at the time I used it in July, I had to put all my, all of the visitors, my entire family in there. It was like these big giant buttons. I'm arriving by ship, on this day. It was like these huge easy buttons. They couldn't have made it any easier. And the amount of complaining I heard about it on the ship as to like, how do I use it? It's so confusing and it's so difficult to use. I was like, wow, this is surprising how difficult you're making this, because it really is not that difficult to use that app. But anyways, people just like to complain. So good times, good times. Gene lives on a private island called Boulder Island. Nice. Video of the home and the island where I live is found at this YouTube place. All right, I'm gonna check that out. I got BirdDog Play delivered a few days back. I will inbox and test it tomorrow. How will you inbox it? Just get it fired up. I've actually got a Play running right here in front of me as my confidence monitor, which is outputting. vMix is outputting a multi-monitor, multi-viewer via NDI, and that's what I'm watching the show on of all my sources. And then I've got another one in the lobby that's actually, we finally did it. We have an office calendar, and I turned it into an NDI source on the network. And so that is now what's being shown on that BirdDog Play out in the lobby. When I came in here, it was working. So I hope it's still working. But it's also an NDI source on our network, and that's a convenient way of doing that. So now I can send it to multiple screens. The BirdDog Plays are running in multicast for me, and that seems to work all right. So good times. Oh, unbox. Gotcha. Then now I understand. Yes. Yeah, I would have assumed you would have been so excited that there would have been it would have been unboxed as soon as it arrived. But just the way that you've talked about it all this past couple of weeks. Also, my Snacks on Stream manager is currently out of the office. He's down south for a few days. And so the assistant to the Snacks on Stream manager has taken over. And so he delivered today a mystery box for Snacks on Stream. And I wasn't planning on doing Snacks on Stream today. I was just going to wait until Brayton got back. But it was delivered. So well done. Way to step it up. So we will do that later on in the show. I don't have something specifically, planned out today. We've done a couple of those where I had something that we were going to watch. If you missed it on Thursday, we did a show on, we watched the NDI.TV webcast of this conversation between Netgear, NDI.TV, and Panasonic. And we made some good observations during that show. I've been thinking about it a little bit more over the past few days about that and about the things that were said on that show. Yeah, so that was fun. And then we've been kind of doing these shows. We had actually like an interview show that we did, I think it was last Tuesday. And we had a bunch of people, like a bunch of NDI integrators, guys that use bird dogs, guys that do NDI stuff across the industry, but also guys that use vMix. Tom was there. He's a big vMix advocate. Glenn was there, he's a sales guy / integrator with Broadfield, with a crazy wealth of knowledge. And then we had just other integrators, guys from the industry that are using 4250s, are using bird dog products, are using a lot of those things. And each of those guys could have easily carried the conversation for like an hour. And all of them, I went back and thought and said, hey, I'd love to have you back on, just like to talk directly with you, because there were things on there that I wish we had more time just to ask you specifically about. And I think that there's content there that needs to kind of get out to the market. So we might have those guys back. We might send out some emails and line those things up. So on Thursday, GoWeb had requested that we chat a bit more about cloud. And so on Thursday, I'm going to make best effort to have my buddy Jake back on. However, to talk about cloud. However, Jake is so crazy in high demand because when cloud came out originally, before he was a bird dog guy, he like jumped on board and learned everything he could. And then we stole him and brought him on as a bird dog employee. And that dude has also then been learning everything he can. And he's kind of one of the bird dog cloud experts in the company. I mean, maybe he is the cloud expert when it comes to the sales side of things and how it works. Of course, we have our engineers and his team and all of those guys. But when it comes to actually using cloud, integrating across your installation, you have a hopes and dreams when it comes to, this is how I want my installation to function. How can cloud answer some of those requests? Jake is your guy when it comes to the pre-sales team. He's got a plethora of installs that he's been up to, and yeah, he's got some deep knowledge, that guy. So I want to try and have him back. The problem is he's such in high demand that he's constantly traveling, constantly flying, always at a show, always in a meeting, doing something, so we love to have Jake back. And I got to get in line apparently because he's on other shows. Didn't he do something for Broadfield or Video Guys or something like that, where he did a BirdDog Cloud? I think it was for Broadfield in some capacity. So yeah, we'll see. Hey, what's going on? That's a name that I also don't want to try and butcher. I could have Google Translate speak it for me, but hey, how's it going? Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I don't want to butcher your name, but I really appreciate that. If you have something that you want to drop in the chat other than hi, feel free. This is where you do it. And as a quick reminder here, you can reach out to me. You can subscribe to this show at birddogjohn.tv. That is the YouTube page for the actual support channel and for the studio. So if you want to get notified, however you get notified on YouTube, you can definitely do that. Subscribe to this channel. That would help us out big time. We're almost at 150 subscribers, which in the YouTube world is very tiny, but on this channel, it's a big deal. So, hey, 150, that's pretty cool. Thank you, everybody who has clicked that subscribe button. And if you want notifications, I guess hit the bell. Does the bell do anything? I don't know. I'm so confused with YouTube's functions. Hopefully that, anyways, if you hit the bell, maybe you'll get an email or something. I don't know how that works. But definitely BirdDogJohn, JON.TV. Look us up and we can definitely give you a hand with on this support show. So there's two ways of contacting support, two main ways to contact support. The first is of course, at help@birddog.tv. Looks like this. And you can email us. That's our major ticketing system. And I've got support agents that are waiting for your email. They live and breathe, I promise. And they do a great job at getting back to whoever, sends us a message. If you're just having issues getting your products up and running, help@birddog.tv. Or if you have some sort of malfunction, they can certainly give you a hand there. If you have questions about the product line, though, hello@birddog.tv is our sales team, and that team is much bigger than my support team. And those guys are really great with letting you know what the products can do, how they integrate, how you should integrate, all of that stuff before the sale. So if you have questions about the product line, you haven't purchased anything yet, hit them up. They can walk you through the install. Really great group of folks over at hello@birddog.tv. And then, of course, if you buy a product and you want to know how to make it do the thing that it says it can do on the box, well, hit us up at help@birddog.tv, and we will let you know what we know. So that's a loaded phrase. I say that for the benefit of the support team. Yeah, we definitely want to help you get that stuff integrated. We want to bring you on the team. This goes into I was thinking about this philosophy, about the support philosophy, because there's a bunch of conversations that are going on in my brain, but also across the company about multiple things. And when people come to the support department and they email help@birddog.tv, there are a couple of ways that happens. The first way is people come to us and they say, I bought this product, or I bought your camera and I plugged it in and it's not doing the thing I thought it would do, or it's, whatever, fill in the blank. And that's just like the very beginning, right? How the conversation starts. I bought your BirdDog camera, the P200. It's supposed to be the bee's knees. Is that a good thing, being bee's knees? I've always assumed it is, but maybe not. Anyways, it's supposed to be the best NDI camera out there, or you guys talk about it being the best or whatever, and it's not doing the thing I want it to do. And then you have this other customer that comes to us and says, hey, I'm really excited. I bought this camera, but my camera isn't functioning the way that I thought it would. Now, both are going to the same thing. It's not doing the thing that I thought it would do. But the way that they phrase the conversation tells us a lot about their level of understanding of NDI, about their buy-in to the product, about whether or not they're serious about really using this thing long-term or making it work, or whether they're just a part of a larger machine that just buys stuff and then spits it out when it's done. There's a lot loaded in that first phrase as to how they talk about the product. And the difference is this is, I bought your product, I bought your camera, or I bought a camera and I. So there's a level of ownership on the second portion of that conversation, right? And it doesn't sound like much, doesn't seem like much, but it really is, because if you buy a product and you consider it yours, that's a big difference than if you buy a product and you consider it mine or BirdDog's. I bought your camera and your thing isn't doing what you said it would do. That's very different than saying, I bought a camera and I want it to work and I can't figure out how to get it to work. That tells support agents a lot about the way you approach how this stuff works. And if I read the tea leaves as to how the marketing looks and how NDI talks about itself, just at the NDI market in general, we want to create cameras that you want to use, but you want to integrate into your environment. And I think that goes into the conversation, for example, about what we expect or what we think the customer already knows about networking, or about how the camera should function, or about, that conversation, for example, when we say NDI just works, you can practically put it on any network. When somebody says that to you, what they are comparing it to is 2110. 2110 has very specific, but also very big requirements when it comes to networking requirements. So compared to 2110, yeah, NDI does just work on a simplified network. Unfortunately, what people hear is any network. It functions on just something with ports on it and cables. That's how basic it needs to be in order to function. And that is not true. You definitely need to have some basic NDI stuff. And I think then it explains and it makes a lot more sense when the NDI protocol was invented, they used a common setup in a lot of networks, DHCP server, TCP network protocols, MDNS. They relied heavily on MDNS, and a handful of other things. But when people think simple networking, what they think is like HD base type of stuff. We've had multiple customers in the past few months come to us and say, I bought 2 minis and I plugged them in with the Ethernet cable and they're not working. Like literally plugged one in with an Ethernet cable and then went to the other side and plugged the other end in with an Ethernet cable, and they think that's an NDI network. It's like, man, we really missed the mark if that's what you think these products are, because that's not what they are at all. Or people that say, well, I went and I bought these, I spent $10,000 in cameras and I plugged them into my switch and they're not working. It's like, what switch? Well, I had a TP-Link switch, or I had a D-Link switch, or I had a Linksys switch, something with link in the name. And it's like, if you were with us a week ago, or was it a week ago? What is today? Tuesday? Yeah, maybe a week ago, when I had all those folks on and I said unmanaged switch and they all grinned. Glenn, you could see Glenn visibly uncomfortable when those words came out of my mouth. And he said something about it too, right? But we don't do ourselves a favor by at least setting a benchmark. So when customers come to us, now let's bring this full circle, right? When customers come to us and they tell us, I bought your camera and it doesn't work, or they say, I bought this camera and I can't get it to work. Those two sentences mean a lot. They mean a lot, because it tells us this thing you made isn't doing the things that I think they should do, or this thing I bought, I can't figure out how to get it to work. Those are two levels of buy-in, and we approach those tickets differently, honestly. I mean, subconsciously even, but maybe unconsciously. But in our brains, we approach those two phrases differently. One is, I want you to come alongside me and help me to get this thing to work. The other thing is, I want you to make this thing work on my network. And those are very different customers. I mean, very different customers, very different mentalities. I think that even the sales process was different. I had a customer the other week or so ago, and he contacted us through the reseller, basically. The reseller said he didn't want to submit a ticket. Can somebody reach out to him? So I reached out to him, and I remoted into his system, and he told me, these cameras, every time I call a preset, the picture doesn't look right. Like it keeps changing, and it either looks all blown out, or it looks way too dark, or it looks, whatever. He had a list of complaints. So I said, oh, okay, well, let's go into, let's talk about exposure. Let's talk about white balance. Let's talk about, the depths of these cameras and really make some sense to it. I got about 15 minutes into a free training session, basically, that I was offering him. And he just stopped me abruptly and was like, dude, I'm not going to teach all of this to my church volunteers. I just want to set these things on full auto, and I just want them to give me broadcast quality pictures. Okay. What do you think I had to tell him? What I had to say was, well, that's not really how it works. If you want broadcast quality, professional quality video, that's going to take a level of buy-in and understanding about, video dynamics and camera angles and lumens and white balance and exposure and all of that stuff. It's going to take a level of understanding that sounds like you may not be willing to invest in. And he said, yeah, there's no way I'm going to be able to teach the 6 or 7 volunteers I have to do this, stream every Sunday. There's no way that they're going to be able to grasp these concepts. And that was a bummer because there was nothing wrong with the cameras or the keyboard that he had. He had 3 cameras and a keyboard bundle. What was the bummer really about it was that he was sold the wrong products. What he wanted is lovingly referred to as a webcam. What he wanted was a product that just like did everything that could do everything without anybody changing any features whatsoever. And when you get to a 1/2-inch Sony sensor, you're not really like in amateur mode anymore. You know, like a P200, which is what they were, is a broadcast lens. It's a globally accepted broadcast lens. And I don't know where we failed him, whether it was like on the sales side where maybe we told the retailer, this is how you sell this product, and that's not accurate. Like, you know, you don't have to touch anything. You just plug them in, off they go. They give you these great black levels. They give you these great color balances, all automatic, all by magic, no customization whatsoever. Like, I don't know where that, but the customer clearly did not know what he had purchased. And when he bought it and started understanding the depths of those cameras, he realized this is not what I thought I bought. And that was a bummer. And so the conversation very much so was about your cameras aren't working. That's the way he approached the conversation. And I tried to bring him over to no, these are your cameras. This is your production. This is your Sunday morning live stream out to the world. You know, you own these things, man. And the more you own them, the better your production will be. And he basically said, I don't want to own them. I don't literally want to own them, and I don't want to own my production, and I don't want it to have that next level of camera or whatever. He said, I just want it all to be, just want it to magically happen and not have to do anything. And from a support side, I didn't know what to tell him because he basically said, like, I don't, you know, even want to learn it. I don't want to learn it, and I don't want to teach it to other people. And that was a bummer. So that was a doozy of a conversation, that's for sure. Because I don't know what to tell you. There is a level of buy-in. It's not a magic camera. You gotta hone these things. You gotta strive towards, like, even what do you want the image to look like? You know, like, I've spent a fair bit of time getting these cameras to look the certain way that they do. And I've added lights and I've added things and added my NetHab will be proud of me. I turned my hair light on before the show, but I spent a fair bit of time, you know, like refining what this looks like. And it's purposeful. And if you buy sophisticated equipment and then you don't want to invest in learning how to make it look amazing, then I don't know what to tell you. It's a tough call, man. I mean, anyway, it's tough. Maybe a sales guy would be better at bringing people over to the ownership side of the conversation, but I was kind of at a loss for words. So, hello from Georgia. What's going on, Josh? How are you? Hopefully things are going well down there in Georgia. The runoff state, right? What was your state slogan before that? I'm Canadian, so I like to just poke fun at politics, but I don't get to vote. So, you know, there you go. Hey, John, next week we'll be busy for my small dogs. 4 gigs on 3 days. Wow. Good luck with that. That sounds like a crazy one, but hopefully you're set up where you can plug them in and get them going, and you'll get consistent results every time. If you follow my guidelines, those results it's very, very doable. So good luck. That's great that you've got lots of gigs lined up. Hopefully they pay well. There's also that, right? Submitting an invoice. So good stuff. Hello from Winnipeg. Oh, how's it going? I got cousins in Winnipeg. Good times. When you click on the bell in YouTube, it turns on notifications within YouTube. This is why I'm watching today, because YouTube popped up a notification saying you're going live. Fantastic. Well, hey, Randy can advocate that if you click the bell, you'll get a notification in YouTube that when I go live, and you won't have to rely on looking at the social media channels at the convenient time of day. So that's fantastic. Well, it's great to hear that that's actually working for you, because I didn't know if that thing actually worked or if it was just kind of gimmicky. So there you go. Hey, when can we expect a firmware update with the preset transition speed option? I don't know. That would be a feature request, not a bug. So I don't know when that option might come around. I don't know it to be on the list of promised features upcoming. I'll put it that way. I know it's there, but I don't know when that will be actually delivered. Truthfully, I can't promise it because I'm not the one writing the firmware, right? Yep, it is, he says. The bee's knees is good. That's the scallion, not so much. I hate to be that guy, Balu, but it's Rapscallion. Whatever. We all got it. We understood. Yeah, you are that guy, Senseless. That guy. How do I get my 3P 4K cameras, vMix, 8 zoom ISO feeds, iMag, and building-wide digital signage running on my 2012 Linksys router? Okay, NetHab is now trolling. The answer is you don't. The answer is you don't. You broke the system when you bought a Linksys anything, and I'm very anti-link in the name networking equipment. If it didn't work, why would they sell it? It's like, well, you could say that about a lot of things, but don't do link. Don't do Linksys, D-Link, or what's the other one? Linksys, D-Link, or anything with link in the name. Is everything okay if we use quad with 4 1080i 50s? Encode, decode, you'll have to elaborate a little bit. I haven't checked the latest beta for quad. That's 1.190, I believe. I haven't checked the latest on that. So I would need to, in order to speak, accurately, I would need to test it myself. Interlaced has always been a bit of a hang up for us, and I know that frustrates the Europe market because they only operate in interlaced. There's still some televisions, channels here in the US that operate in interlaced, partially because interlaced is a fair smaller data requirement, but the world is now progressive, and progressive resolutions. So there's just some folks that are a little late to the party, but 1080i 50 is really prevalent in Europe. So I don't know about that. But depends. Encode, decode. I thought we were encoding 1080i 50 okay. I don't know about decode. I'll have to check. I'll have to check too, by the way. He's wrong, by the way. I regularly have to train volunteers every Sunday on how to operate and shade 6 cameras, and they eventually do get it. I'm so proud. Oh, about the hair light. Yes, this is very true. And I have actually struggled with training volunteers on framing. Actually, I feel like this camera is a little low, the P200. I have struggled to train volunteers on framing. I keep reminding them and showing them and printing off examples of stuff. Come on now, P200. There we go. Here's how you frame a shot. And then I watched the stream the next week, and the dude, like, the frame is always, the face is always in the middle of the frame. Gosh, it's so annoying. I wish OBS would come out with an overlay that showed the 3x3 grid that you could show them how to do it, but OBS is not that sophisticated, and you shouldn't rely on OBS if you really want to take your productions to the next level. You have to pay for something. But anyways, it's really annoying. I've talked to a few people and helped them out who think NDI means plug and play over whichever switch that they're using. Either the marketing message is wrong or they're interpreting it wrong. I think both of those things can be true. I do think that there's ownership on the way we talk about NDI. That needs to change. And the people that were in power, that were having those conversations, that were insisting on the conversations about NDI being a certain way, I've heard that they're no longer around. But I also think that there is an interpretation piece that's at fault here. And I don't know how to fix it unless like we fix it, right? I don't know if anyone can fix it but the manufacturer and the people that are producing the marketing stuff. So we've worked really hard at making sure that we speak accurately about it, because it doesn't do us any favors to not speak accurately. It actually does us a giant disservice. And what's interesting about this too is I've inquired with salespeople, both inside and outside of BirdDog, about when you talk about NDI and you talk about buying BirdDog products, do you find yourself moving towards the conversations about all the cool features, or do you find yourself talking more regularly about how to make it actually happen? Because I think people want to be sold on the coolness of NDI, but I really think they just want to know how to use it. You know, like it doesn't do us any good if we sell them something they can't use. Like, what's the point in that? So I don't know. I think there's a merriment between the two that really need to, there's like a balance. But I think when NDI first kicked off, it was really one-sided. It was really get the word out how cool this is, how easy it is to use. And now it comes out after the fact. Well, yeah, compared to 2110, it's a lot easier, but a lot of people don't have exposure to 2110. I would say most of the NDI market isn't running 2110 seriously. And wasn't it interesting when we watched that webinar the other day? We did that on Thursday, right? We watched that webinar. It didn't seem like the Panasonic guys were that interested in the NDI conversation. NDI TV was, NewTek or Netgear was, and like the NewTek engineer was, but Panasonic was like, well, yeah, it's a feature, but it's not like the feature. It's like it's like shading or white balance, or it's a feature on the camera, like Genlock. That's a feature, but it's not the feature. Whereas with the NDI and Netgear guys, that was the conversation. NDI, that's the conversation we're having. Panasonic, it was like, no, they can't. Like the 160 has all these bells and whistles and all these cool things it can do, and it does NDI. Right? Did you catch that? I thought that was such an interesting. I thought that was an interesting conversation. But Italy, what is going on? Let's put some BirdDog equipment into ice hockey. Please do. I'm your guy. I love hockey. I mean, I don't know if you caught this at the beginning of the show, but I'm from Canada. I'm all about hockey. I cheer for the equivalent of the Lions in the NHL. I cheer for the Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's been a lifetime of heartache and conspiracy theories that the NHL is actually anti-Toronto Maple Leafs. But anyways, Phil, it's BirdDog Phil, everybody. Greetings from the UK. What is going on, man? It has been what feels like an age since you and I have spoken. Welcome back to the show. Just have you on the show one time where we could just hang out and chat. It would be so good to talk about what's going on over in Europe these days with BirdDog and sales and all that stuff. And then CJ shows up. BirdDog CJ. Here's another guy that he's been either so busy or avoiding me like the plague that I haven't spoken to this guy in over a couple of months. So, hey, I watched the NDI panel discussion last week. Awesome to watch. Great job. Oh, thank you. You know, when you get done with those sorts of shows, I don't know if you guys do those sorts of things. I can put this pen down. Let's switch it out for a knife. No, I'm kidding. I don't want to get banned on YouTube. When you do those sorts of shows and you talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and then the show ends and you're like, was that valuable to anybody else? Did anybody else like enjoy that? I had overwhelming reassurance that it was good quality content, not only from the people that joined me, but also from also you guys that watched. And so really appreciate that. And comments like this, CJ, that makes a big difference. Thanks so much. It was worth tuning in for. Some shows I have folks on, and some shows we just talk. We just carry on in the comment section and I just chat with you, and I go on stories and rants and all sorts of things. And that's what this is all about, folks. You guys just ask your questions. So, hey, we would love to have you walk through how to tune the P200. Okay, I've done that multiple times. I'm happy to do that again. We can definitely, let me star that so that I remember to come back to that. Because faux show. That'd be great. From Italy. Hey, let's bring BirdDog into ice hockey. So now we've got the official user, not on Facebook, but now on YouTube. Thanks for joining us over there too. Yes, let's do it. I'm Canadian. I would love that. I think I've said that once or twice on this show already. So senseless. Yeah, I know, but it sounded better since we were talking about animals. TP Link. Randy for the win. TP Link is the one that I was forgetting. Hey, are we able to ask any questions about NDI? Never! I think it's in the title of the show. That's what I wanted you to bring up. So yes, by all means. Greetings from Alabama. You know, this is Tom St. Clair, everybody. This dude is more famous than me. And what a day it is when Tom graces our show. Now he was on our show last week, and now he's in the comment section, which, that's 2 weeks in a row. I feel like I could hang him up at this point. When Tom graces you twice, that's something else. So I'm hosting BirdDog Ian and Eamon live tomorrow. Oh my word. That's pretty fun. Do you want to have another guest? We do a round table. I'll join you. Or is that too many? Is that too many bird dogs? I also understand that full circle. And I just got my 240. You got a 240 before me, Tom. I mean, a little bitter, but also not so much. What was I just saying? Tom is the man. He knows how to get the things going. He knows the resources. So that doesn't surprise me at all that he got a 240 before I did. Hey, let me know if you want more bird dog people on your show tomorrow. So I'm new to NDI. There's some basic settings to get started. I have very grainy video coming out of a P200 that it's shown in studio. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. So you're getting the NDI video, which means that your network is functioning. That's good. That's step one. Having a proper NDI network is step one. And people love to go past that and go right to features of the camera. The camera you're looking at right now is a P200. That is the main camera in my studio. If I stop this, sorry, I got the hiccups or something going on. So if I stop this, so this is a P200. This is a P110. This is a PF120. And this is a P100, old school. And this is a P400. Now, the 400 is running in low bandwidth mode, as is the P100. And if I jump over, oh yeah, okay. And so this P100 that you're looking at is also in low bandwidth mode. So this is a P200, and this is running with I've got a fair bit of light going on in my studio. So I've got my primary light, right? My key light. And then I've got actually two fill lights going on over here. And then I've got a hair light going on up here. And then I've got RGBs that are providing some color. So when we switch over to this shot, you can see the blue on the wall. There's also it's a light blue on the floor. There's a dark blue up above that you can see here above my head. And then I've got a green light that's over here that casts kind of a green. So that's the lighting rig that's going on in here. And then there's, like I said, my key light, which is pretty bright. My hair light, which is providing some fill and, definition on my shoulders, whatever. So I've got a fair bit of light going on because these 1/2-inch Sonys love more light than you would normally have on in just a general room. So if you've got a studio, like now you may have meant I'm showing it on a BirdDog studio. That's confusing. I understand. You might also mean I'm showing it on studio monitor, which is also confusing. So let's cover all three. But these P200s really like a fair bit of light. And so step number one is being sure you have proper light and it's all consistently colored the same. So I'm running 5,000, let's say 5,000 Kelvin. It's probably closer to 5,300, but I'm running about 5,000 Kelvin on these lights. And then I can white balance the camera to make it look a little bit more natural. So the lines on my shirt actually looks blue today, but it's actually black. If you look at this side, you can see it's actually a black Adidas polo, and the lines on those are white. And then of course I've added color, and so that changes those a bit. What you do is you balance it without your RGBs on, and then you add those afterwards, and then you kind of get your dynamic lighting. So if you're getting grainy video, that traditionally means you don't have enough lumens hitting the lens. And this P200 is zoomed in a little bit, but not very much. I don't know, probably 3 or 4 times. If you zoom in a whole lot, you're going to eliminate a lot of the lumens that are available. And so we could demonstrate that, of course, but I would have to mess up that shot. But if you zoom in, you're going to eliminate a lot of the light. So you're going to need even more light if you're zoomed in a lot. Now, if you position this camera at the back of an auditorium and you light up a stage with lots of light and you zoom in on a subject, you'll be fine. There won't be any sort of like lack of light problems. But if you're getting grainy video, the first thing is you probably got too little light, and the artificial gain is cranking up to try and compensate for the lack of light that you have. So broadcast cameras, which is what this is, they love light. They love having ample light, and then you can always dial back the iris, right? You can always increase the shutter speed so that you get more frames, and you can change the iris so that it can behave, it can close a bit to eliminate some light. But if the iris is wide open and the shutter speed is like 1/30 and you're shooting in 1080p 30, or if it's 1/60 and you're shooting in 1080p 60 and your video is grainy, you probably don't have enough light. So that's basic 101 setup. Get more light on your subject. And that should help a whole lot. They're going to feature the 240 tomorrow. That's pretty exciting. Jake also did a video on your YouTube channel walking through the 200 in cam control. He did a video on my YouTube channel, on Tom's, on Broadfield's. I can't remember who's talking here. CJ said that maybe it was here. We did a cam control show. You're right. And so he showed setting up coloration on cam control, inside cam control. The nice thing with cam control is if you open that up, you have access to multiple cameras, and all of the web UI coloration controls are right there at your fingertips. So you can just open up multiple cameras and then color match them there directly. But without adding an additional element of cam control to the equation, you can do it all in the web UI. Now, don't do it with this thing. All right. This thing, it's supplied. You have to get a new battery and, integrate the battery into that and turn this on. And then it turns on the OSD. Stop. We've made this so that all your coloration can be done on the web UI with a mouse and a keyboard. And that's how we intend the customer to colorize their video, or with cam control and, API commands and all that sort of stuff. So make it simple on yourself. Use it how we designed it to be used. Don't monkey around with the OSD, because this is actually changing baseboard features, and it's not then perhaps integrate across directly to the web UI. You would think so, but there's lots to discuss there about how we design things and blah, blah, blah. Let me just make it easy for you. Use the web UI or use cam control. Okay. That's how we intend you to use it. And I can confidently say that without getting in too much trouble. Of course, I'll find out after the show when the bosses tune in and to say, hey, anyway, whatever. Any chance we get some Black Friday deals on the quad? I don't think so. I don't think Black Friday is available for quad. I believe it's 4K, SDI, HDMI, and the cameras, I believe, have Black Friday deals, but I do not believe Black Friday deals are available for quad. Any update on the Flex, when the Flex will have NDI 5 firmware? Yes, the Flex will have NDI 5 firmware. That's the update. No date. I have no idea when, David. I'm really sorry that that's as specific as I can be. But yeah, we don't have any sort of date as to when that will launch. They're literally going to be live in the studio. Oh, you're going to have them. Yeah, that's right. They are going to be there because I shipped some stuff to you so that they could pick it up from Eastern Shore. So yes, they will be live in your studio. I guess that would be weird to have me on and then have 2 live guests. That'd be a little strange. My 240 came from your office. No, it didn't. We have not had a 240 in this office ever. So if it came from my office, something happened without me knowing. A 240 arrived in my office without my knowledge. I highly doubt that. My senses are on. My radar is on. If one of those show up, you better believe it. It's going to get unboxed. There's no way that it came from the Auburn Hills office. I bet you it came from Broadfield, more than likely. That's probably who shipped it in, or it didn't come from here, or somebody brought one over from Australia or something. But I know it hasn't. It's not here. I'm building an 8-camera OB van this winter, all based on BirdDog NDI and vMix. Any software or hardware that I should not forget to include? The correct answer is X Keys. Yes, X Keys is the thing that I'm using to and this device is almost 10 years old and it works like the day I bought it, and it's fairly inexpensive. And if you want to get into X Keys, the depth on the thing is very granular but really deep, and I would say deeper than Stream Deck for now. But I would say, yeah, that's the BirdDog channel. Oh yeah. There's a cam control, like a snippet, right, that we did that they put up there. Well, thank you. Yes, I can't be super specific about the firmware release dates because I don't have those. I don't know when we could expect the NDI 5 for converters. Essentially, I believe that the process will probably be 4K family flexes, they'll roll them out for the current fleets, and so mini, studio, and so on. But there's also wall plates out there, remember? And there's a few other products that are out there, that SDM module, and that technically they're all converters, right? Because they're just taking video off your network and showing them on screen. So wall plate, SDM. Remember OG4, so Open Gear is a thing, and that's going to need NDI 5. So that project is pretty big, which is why I don't have any sort of dates or anything like that. The camera project has officially launched and is pretty much done, the NDI 5 integration. So converters is next. That's the deal. Return address, Auburn Hills. Yes, return address. But that doesn't mean it came from me. That means somebody put a return address on there. That's my office. But that's all it is. Sorry. You have nothing to be sorry about, Tom. Don't forget to include a Netgear 4250. I fully agree. This is in response to the question of I'm building out this. Yes. I mean, the 4250 should be the backbone of this installation if that's how you're going to do it. And man, this P110 cannot stay focused. It's really annoying. It keeps shifting. I think it's the coloration. And also I need to fix the coloration on the 110 because it changed. Somebody was monkeying around with my settings here recently on my P110, changing the white balance. And then when I came in here this morning, it was different. They did put it back. I'm going to have a talking to. Someone's going to get disciplined. Just kidding. No one's going to get disciplined. I'll just fix it. So I might say something though. I'm saying it now. Whoever's watching out there in the lobby, giggling away, that I'm saying it now. Yeah, don't forget a 4250 if you're going to build out that little van that needs to go out to shows or go and do productions or whatever. Make your life easy. Plan for a 4250. Plan for an NDI 5 profile on that thing. Isolated, and if you want to then hook up to external internet, all it takes is plugging it into the non-VLAN port and changing the gateway on the VLAN port. It's that easy. So that would be the quickest and fastest way to get that done for sure. Focus issues since the show started with the side cameras. Yeah, well, that's the PF120 is that camera, and I think this one is the one that's really the 110. I noticed that before the show started that it was having some, like, it was hunting a little bit for where to focus, and it doesn't help that I have a very detailed microphone in front, and like with letters and stuff in the shot, and then I've got I keep doing this number, so it doesn't really know what to focus on. So it's probably user error more than anything, but I haven't spent the amount of time required to iron that out. So I was hesitant on the 4250, but when a Ubiquiti switch died on a show, I pulled the trigger, and I'm very happy that I did. I like the way this is going. The Ubiquiti switch killed an Asus router when it went, but my P200 was fine, thankfully. Was it curious? Was that Ubiquiti? What generation was that Ubiquiti switch? Was it Gen 1 or Gen 2? I have a hunch. What's going on, Jeremy? How are you, man? Thanks for jumping back on here. I'm seeing you more often these days. You went silent. You went like DEFCON 20 on me there for about like 12 months. And then you've been on the show regularly. We should get you back on here, man. Curious, though, about that Ubiquiti switch. Was it Gen 1 or Gen 2? If it was a Gen 2, well, I'll just let you answer. But anyways, it was a 2018 16-port PoE Plus switch. I think Gen 2 was out by then because I did an install back in like 2016. Did it have a little LCD screen on the front of it or no LCD screen? That's how you tell the difference between the two. Anyways, if it was, then just reinforcing my prejudice against Gen 2 Ubiquiti switches. I'm so anti-Ubiquiti Gen 2. It's not even funny. People who go from a Gen 2 Ubiquiti switch over to a 4250 Netgear, oh yeah, that's going to be night and day performance is what that's going to be. Nope, no LCD screen. Okay, well, anyways, it's a Ubiquiti switch. It's okay. I run some Ubiquiti switches, but they primarily do like VoIP stuff and some data transfer. They don't do NDI on a production level. Those are all 4250s in my office. So yeah, I love the combo here. We love having you on. So thank you for joining in. Appreciate that. One for the Ethernet, the Ethernet transformers on the board let out a bunch of very stinky goo. It made quite a mess. Oh gosh, that doesn't sound good. Yikes. Ubiquiti. Red flag. They have their place in the networking world. I know a lot of like small businesses that are just data, strictly data. It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. For that level of data flow, not the end of the world. For NDI, that's a tough one. So what are you seeing in the quote streaming world as far as PTZ integration? Are sales up? Are they flat? Streaming in my area seems to have slowed down. Well, oh geez, how do I even start that conversation? I think streaming, this is just my personal observation, not an official BirdDog thing, but I think streaming has taken a back seat. Yeah, you're right. That one's out of focus. I think streaming has taken a little bit of a backseat, partially because of what I would say artificial inflation due to COVID. You have no idea how many schools, how many houses of worship, how many community centers, everybody needed to stay connected, right? And sales, like we couldn't keep cameras on the shelf. We would bring them in and most of them would already be spoken for. So our distributors loved it because everything they stocked, they sold, no problems. And our retailers that was going well. But when the restrictions were lifted, regardless of how you feel about all that, when they were lifted and people started going back to in office or in community or in seat productions, we'll say, yeah, the need to stream became a lot less prevalent. And the beautiful thing that happened, the great side effect was NDI became let's say a household name. It's so cool to watch huge integrators. Just watch Global Office Hours. These guys are production guys. Like that's how they make their money. If you watch those types of shows, watch Global Office Hours on YouTube. They talk about NDI at least once a week. It comes up at least once a week. These guys are doing production for a living, and they talk about it on a regular basis. And so NDI is a part of a workflow now. Something interesting that somebody said kind of off the cuff to me at NAB was that NDI is not the means for their main production, but it's their back end flow that they need NDI for. And they were actually extremely excited about somebody that I highly respect, by the way. He was extremely excited about OpenGear because he said, we install an OpenGear chassis on every installation, even if we don't need it, which I thought was astounding. Even if we don't need an OpenGear chassis, we put one in, because what's going to happen is we're going to need one. The customer's going to say like, great, it's been 2 years, we're off to a great start, but now we want to do these things. And that gives him the ability to say, well, you've already actually invested up front, and all we got to do is add these cards, and you can do those things. So Dante, 2110, now NDI, BirdDog. Now we want to send video. We want to send it through to behind the stage into the green room. We want to send it around into the hallways on a bunch of screens. We want to do this. We want to do this. We want to do this. You're already set up for it. All we got to do is buy the cards. So they're really excited about OG4. And it hadn't dawned on me that OG4, its main market, may not be primary production. It might be actually back-end production, and it might be more post-production stuff, which, it threw me for a loop. I actually, after that conversation, I sat down and thought, oh yeah, that's like a massive market there. Not just live. This is live, right? With a 20-second delay because of YouTube. This is live. Not just this. That's not where NDI may shine. NDI might be a huge way, especially multicast. Now start thinking multicast, of doing back-end overhaul, so we could pipe this out to 100 screens around the facility. So when our main room goes live, when the lecture hall goes live, we have a big important event, or we have a guest speaker that's coming in, a really popular whatever, we can send this to everything and do it pretty simply, actually, with Central Pro and Multicast and BirdDog Play and one OG card. Take the main production out of vMix or out of TriCaster, NDI output, link it into Central Pro and say, stream to all our plays that are on display around our facility. Boom, everything goes live. Yeah, I mean, there's a huge market that is untapped, that is not the live market, but is the what we would call the back end production, the pieces where we need to have a screen backstage so they can see what's going on stage and be ready when it's time. Okay, we can throw a little PF120 that's facing the theater, and that feed goes back to a play or multiple plays that are on TVs backstage in the dressing rooms, so everybody's on the same page as to when it's all happening, right? So yeah, pretty cool. That was like one of those moments where the scales fall. You ever have those where people are like, yeah, but what about this? And then you're like, oh geez, I didn't even think about that. Like, yeah, that's a huge deal. That could be a huge deal. So anyway, good stuff. Truth, ubiquity, never again. I'm doing tons of hybrid event workflows, all portable gear, mostly 2 P200s, and now the 4250 switch. Do you mind me asking which one you went with? Was it the 4212, or what model did you go with? Like, you and I are now kindred spirits. You went from a ubiquity to 4250. Welcome home. This show. You should feel right at home with this crowd. We're all with you on that, man. Yeah, streaming has taken a back seat. Yeah, to answer that question, I guess it's not that it's taken a back seat. It's just not a fire hose of need. And you got to be careful here because we sold a lot. Like we grew like crazy, okay? We grew like crazy. You got to be careful not to base your projections on that growth because you don't want another global pandemic or you want to rely on global pandemic numbers because that's a very unique fishbowl situation. What you need to do, and this is me talking about BirdDog and a manufacturer in particular, is figure out ways then now to answer. You have back end flow processes. That's where you get something like BirdDog Play. It's not timing critical, that product. So we don't have to have a super fast IMAG situation. So you have an ARM process that shows NDI and full NDI, does decode full NDI. Well, that's cool. Now that means that you can make those relatively inexpensively, sell those relatively inexpensively, and put them all over the place. And be careful because when you start doing that, you're going to want a multicast environment and you're going to want that 4250 to make that happen. So heads up. That's going to be a fun conversation. I'm just going to change, by the way, that PF120 and the P400 that's up on the shelf up there. I'm going to change those to not low bandwidth mode. We're going to see how that goes. So if I start dropping frames, let me know. Let me know. I come from a production background and started doing virtual hybrid events over 10 years ago. It's astonishing how much easier it's gotten with NDI. It used to take a full room of hardware just to bring in a couple of virtual guests, and they'd have to go back to a dedicated VidCon suite. Even in the last year, it's moved so far. At the start of the pandemic, every Zoom guest required a laptop, and now I can bring in several from a single laptop over NDI. Yeah, isn't that crazy how quickly that changed? It's so much easier to do it. Like we were sending BirdDog Cloud enabled laptops and a camera, to a news anchor's home, and they'd open up the laptop and they'd plug in the camera to both to the same network, and then the production suite would take over. Well, with the announcement of Silicon 2, the hope is that you can just have SRT on your network and you can just grab that feed and bring it directly back. Time will tell. See if that's a possibility. See if that's the promoted feature, by the way. I'm not speaking out of like ignorance. That's the hope and dream, that you can have SRT directly on your network and bring that across. How that all gets done, how the sausage gets made, that's we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm interested in the future. That's for sure. The future is very exciting if we can get those things to do all the things that we need them to do. So I'm just going to have my PF120 autofocus again. I really need to go to manual focus, but I've noticed that manual focus and studio monitor, my P100 struggle busting with that. So has anybody else noticed that? If you turn on a PC, open studio monitor, go to your P110 and turn off autofocus and move the slider, does it work for you? It's not working for mine, but this one's at the support office for a reason. So it could be multiple things going on there. All right. Facebook user says, Dante, what's up with that in cameras? So you're talking about the Dante for hardware thing? Well, lots of things are up with the Dante for hardware problem. Not things that I think I'm permitted to talk about necessarily. I can say this. We know it works. We know it works. That's as far as I can. You can draw your own conclusions. I think I'm being pretty clear. We know it works. So, but it's not for sale yet. We know it works. Can do you have the powers of deductive reasoning? Do they dwell within your comprehensive? I'm assuming they do. Anyways, we know it works. We know it works. That's all I can say. How is the picture quality of the P240 compared to the P200? Well, I would love to say that I know from experience that it is, quote, the bee's knees. I have been told, however, from very reliable, so I don't have a 240 in the office yet. I would love to have one in the office. If anybody from the rest of the company is watching, we'd love to have one here at the office. I will swap out the 200 for a 240. However, my buddy Jake, BirdDog Jake, he is a highly reliable source, and so is BirdDog Phil. BirdDog Jake tells me that the 240, if you think the 200 image is nice, the 240 makes the 200 look entry level. And I'm super excited to see that, because if I love the 200 sensor, I do. It's the reason why it's my primary camera on this show. Is the 200 sensor is great for what I do, and the 200 camera is our most popular camera for a reason, and it is also flat out the most requested camera that we sell. I mean, we have 4K versions. We've got a big beefy P4K. We've got some pretty cool up and comers, the 110, 120. Those are pretty neat cameras. But the 200 is so popular and very versatile, and it's got lots of tricks up its sleeve, and it makes the image look great 9 times out of 10 if you're willing to learn it. So I've been told the 240 is better than the 200. And I cannot wait to see that for myself, because I believe it. If Phil says so, if Jake says so, I fully believe that. And yeah, I'm excited to see the 240. So all signs point to yes. Yeah, it's a 4212. Yeah, that's a great switch. That's the one I got down here, and it's very consistent. Let's just say it's rarely the network when there's an issue. So good choice. I'd like to get a second one to do long distance transport over fiber. It'd be nice to see a 4-port PoE plus single SFP 4250. So I actually use those single SFP ports on that 4212 that you have. I have a external fiber connection over USB-C that I use to connect dual fiber to this vMix machine. And I have yet to find the limit of NDI sources I can bring in. Now, I haven't pushed it, obviously, but I've got 6 NDI sources in this studio, 5 cameras, and a screen capture that I'm using. And it's not the network. That's not the problem. It's usually the computing power of my vMix machine. So if you have the opportunity to add SFP to your computer, you should. That 4212 is pretty stinking awesome when you bring in that fiber speed. I have also, by the way, we've talked about this numerous times on this show. I did the network design for NAB for BirdDog's booth, and I did a fiber core. That thing is slick. Ooh, that's a good one. That's the network guy's dream. That's that thing. So I used a fiber core, and I redundant SFP plussed every desk because I could back to a fiber core. And if I really wanted to do redundant, I would have asked for 2 of them. We're going to have to move offices here next year because our lease is up and we're growing like crazy over here at BirdDog. So when we move, I'm going to buy a fiber core. You better believe I'm going to buy a fiber core for the backbone of that network. Oh, I'm going to probably get rid of the Ubiquity stuff, maybe sell that, and just do the 4250 fiber core as the backbone, and then probably do a couple of, headrooms with, real decent Netgear switches, and then have multiple testing benches, probably a dedicated switch to the actual team that's doing ticketing, because they have their own bench for testing and a few other things. So it's going to be fun. I don't want to leave this office because actually the landlords are really good to us here. So that's a bummer. But I don't see a way that we can stay and continue to grow at the rate that we're growing. So all good things. All good things. All good problems to have, right? Jeremy says, hey, have you ever used an older Cisco 2960 switch? Is this a joke? Are you serious right now? Did you say anything else? The 2960 switch series? Oh my goodness. If you're legit asking this, Jeremy, that switch series, the 2960 series from Cisco, is on the do not service list. It's discontinued from Cisco. And I have literally written a knowledge database article for my agent saying, if you ever come across this switch, tell people not to use it for NDI installs. Yeah, that is a big no-no, that switch series. It's discontinued from Cisco. Here's the thing, and here's where you're going to find it. You're going to find it on eBay, and you're going to find it on a bunch of previously federally funded public schools and government districts. A while ago, there was a big subsidy that went out, or like a grant that went out to every public school, and they were going to upgrade their network infrastructure. And the switch that they approved was a Cisco 2960 switch. And that 2960 got put in every public school in the United States that's federally funded, that 2960. Here's the problem with 2960. It claims to be PoE plus on paper. It is not. It is 15.4 watts maximum per port, and it claims to be more than 1 gig per port backbone. It is not. And so it cannot power a camera, and it cannot really handle NDI. So run screaming into the night. MTash, what's going on? Good morning. I have an important question for you. Oh, boy. Once a year, I do a gaming event where we bring a bunch of RTMP feeds into vMix over SRT. Linux and Dockers are my friends for that one. Yeah, they would be, for sure. Ooh, I just got really excited that tomorrow is half-price sushi day at Meijer. Balu, that's for you. I'm going to set a reminder. I don't know why. That one's for free, folks. That one's for free. Here in Michigan, it's half price on Wednesdays. I already have a good working DHCP reservation NDI network working here at the school with multiple BirdDog P200s, Minis, Studios, keyboards, and Flex. So far, so good. Replacing an out-of-warranty TriCaster 460. Ooh, there's a doozy with a TC1. Also discontinued, by the way, by NewTek, so just heads up. I have the 460 in a rolling case, but thinking of placing the TC1 and new 3-play, into a control room on a second floor office on our gym, so it stays in a dry place. And we bring the source signals into the control room for 2 different locations on campus. Okay. The IT department wants to run an Ethernet cable from each source, from each location, to the second floor office. Is that overkill? With the NDI tools able to group signals and our vibrant DHCP system in place and working, will NDI tools do the, quote, less expensive job of protecting sources while through the network to the TriCaster? Or is spending a lot of money to run individual cables the best way to ensure solid, uninterrupted NDI sources? Well, okay. This chair needs a new. I'm going to get a new piston for this thing. So we have a control room on the second floor, which is where you're thinking about putting that TriCaster, right? But you're bringing in signals to that TriCaster from different locations on campus, from 2 different locations on campus. The IT department wants to run an Ethernet cable from that location to your new production office. Well, first question. Cat 6 or Cat 6A? Please say Cat 6A. If it's Cat 6A and shielded, and they're willing to do that, they're willing to pay for that, money is no object, I would say yes. However, those two locations, I have a question about that. Oh, that's weird. I have a question about those two locations. Is it a single source? Is it a single NDI source, or do you have like a headroom that's doing NDI, and then you're bringing those feeds back to the control room, the TriCaster? Because if that's the case, and they're going to already do the legwork, why not run redundant fiber and go out of this switch that's in the location and run fiber back to the headroom that's in the second floor and bring those signals in that way, ensuring 10 gigs, first of all? Because, MTash, what I'm wondering is, it doesn't sound like you're doing a bad job. It sounds like they like what you're up to over there, and they're probably going to expand your capabilities sooner rather than later. A single Cat 6A would give you 10 gigs, and it's shielded, so you're okay there. But in terms of efficiency, your fiber is going to be faster. The choking point is actually going to be the LC mods, believe it or not. But like once you get it to light, I mean, it's almost instantaneous. Whereas if you're doing it over Ethernet, it's not noticeably slow. But I mean, you're buying the Ferraris of the NDI world already with BirdDog and 4250s and all that great stuff. And now TC1, which is really an industry standard. I mean, I'll go on record, guys. The TriCaster 1 is the industry standard when it comes to video switching, especially NDI. There are other options out there, but TriCaster is one of the best, if not rivaling for the best. So if you're going with TC1 and you're going with 3Play, which is not a cheap, that is not a cheap thing to buy. I mean, you might talk to them about, maybe we should trunk these two locations with fiber. And if you're going to do it once, you might as well do it twice and do redundant fiber. And then what you do is you say, well, we could do redundant fiber, but then we could trunk them together and get 20 gigs through. And now we can really talk about ramping up the abilities of, your productions, because you're linked that way. Now, if it's a single source, and you may have said something here below that I'm not paying attention to. If it's just a single source that you're bringing across, a Cat 6A would be great. It's not overkill. I think it's, how would you bring it across otherwise? Like, are you thinking about converting it to like something else and sending it that way? I think directly connecting those locations, it's not a spanning tree environment, everybody. It's probably a star pattern or something. So I think directly connecting those locations, the network is smart enough to know this is the fastest way, and you'll get the best performance out of it. Whether it's worth the price, I mean, that's subjective. That you're going to have to probably decide that for yourself. But whether it's the best bang for your buck, I don't know. If you're going to do that, though, I mean, I'm always like, let's just go to fiber, because now I really don't have to worry about. Now it's 10 gigs, via light instead of 10 gigs via copper. But anyway, the focus slider is terrible in Studio Monitor, but the PTZ control is so much nicer than the BirdDog keyboard. That's a statement right there. Can't say yes or no. Yes, but does it work, John? Dante, that is. What I can say is Dante for hardware works. So let's wait. Before we talk about that, I have a couple of 2960s gathering dust in my basement. I think I might go to e-waste with my Ubiquiti. They haven't been powered on in years, nor should they. Keep those powered off. 3 locations, actually. It's actually 3 locations. MTash says multiple sources from 3 different locations. Then I would say yes. If you're bringing multiple sources over three locations, a direct 10 gig, at least Ethernet, is probably the right move. Just for reliability, for redundancy's sake, it's the shortest path. And you don't have to rely on other switches in the chain. It'll be a direct send. Yeah, that's probably wise for best results. Again, if you can get away with, you could suggest fiber. Say, can we just do a fiber connection between that switch and mine? That would be the fastest, because then you could trunk those and get all the data, and it would be crazy quick. But anyways. So, okay, this is good to know. I got an old one given to me. That's a 2960 just avoid like the plague, man. If it wasn't like a gift from a dying relative and you can part with it, it's not a good idea. Those things are, I specifically have told that switch, there's only like 4 on the list, and that switch is one of them. I know that I did over a dozen troubleshooting scenarios about 2 years ago, where the result was it's this Cisco switch that's misbehaving. 3 of those scenarios, the cameras were rebooting at random, and it was because of it wasn't negotiating the class. And then we found out that it says in the marketing for the 2960s that it's PoE plus, but then it literally says in the fine print only up to 15.4 watts. So that is not PoE plus, everybody. That is not PoE plus. Hey, let's talk about controlling BirdDog cameras over the keyboard and other brand controllers in an upcoming show. Well, I don't support other controllers. So we can have like Scarhoy. We really should have Scarhoy on the show, and they can talk to us about their controllers and about their Blue Pill product, which I think is really cool. I would love to talk more about that and learn more about that, because I think it's a great concept. I don't know if it's had much success. Feel free to drop some knowledge in the comment section if you have. But yeah. Oh, and here's BirdDog Phil. The 240 image is very good. It's much better than the P200. See, if Phil says, like, Phil is a camera guy. Phil's knowledge of the industry cameras, not just BirdDog, but just cameras in the industry, far surpasses most salesmen in this market. Like, he's got a deep pool to draw from, because he was doing this for, let's say, another company prior to coming to BirdDog, and they sold a broad range of cameras. So if Phil says something like it's much better than the P200, that carries a level of weight that most salesmen do not get the liberty to carry. So that's a big statement, and it should not be lost on you. If Phil says that, if Jake says that, that means something. That has a lot of weight to it. So crazy. I'm so excited to see it. I'm so excited to get my hands on it. It will, if the rumors are true, that camera will be a 240 in like 2 seconds of it arriving in my office, which is why I don't think Tom Sinclair's 240 was here, because it would not have gone to Tom. It would have stayed here forever. I would have stolen it, to say the least. 2 to 4 cameras at each location. So fiber cables to each source from each location, or 1 fiber cable that carries all sources. So I would love to see, in a perfect world, two fiber cables from each location trunked, bringing all data to your 4250 in your suite. However, if you can only do 1, then 1 from each location to your main hub. That would be the shortest route and the fastest. That would be fantastic. From that location? So, obviously a single fiber is only going to it'll be faster on copper. If you've got 2 locations, right, and it's coming into your main room, then if you have copper on one and fiber on one, it will still travel that way. But the fiber, that's the network. That's the network dream, is to swap it out for fiber. Hey, if each location is a different building, I would go with a pair of fibers and a local switch. This is exactly what I just said. And if they are in the same building and just downstairs or something, home run, each camera converter would be fine. Yes, NetHab is correct. I say that a lot on this show. Eastern Shore Broadcasting, thinking about an X Keys replay controller. It was my birthday present from Eamon. There it is. That's why he has the 240. Oh, yeah. Tom, you had a birthday recently, didn't you? Happy birthday, bud. Tom agrees that an X Keys replay controller would be a good choice. Whoops. NetHab, one location is the same gym. Another location is a football field next to the gym. And the third location is a pool next to the gym. So the two outbuildings, fiber, the other local Ethernet's fine, I think. I think you'd be good. Yeah. You are very welcome, Tom. Happy birthday, bud. I didn't even get you anything. See? I talk a big game, and then I totally missed your birthday. Where am I? I gotta get my office admin to start following other streamers' birthdays, so that he can send me a reminder. So I got my A game on. I got people for this now, right? I got people for this. Okay, one of the things that was requested, and I want to do this before we sign off, and we're up to an hour and a half here on this show, by the way. So thanks for the comment section. This has been really great. You guys have been just a happening over there. So the comment section we have here, I would love for you to do a walkthrough of how to tune the P200. So yeah, let's do that. I'm going to turn off my playlist and let's bring over my screen capture. So we're going to cut over to my screen, and then let's bring up, so the P200, I'm down here in the corner of the screen, and that P200 is easy peasy to get to. So I'm going to bring up Chrome. P200.local is the IP address, my local DNS name. Here it is. All right. So, oh no, this stupid chair. I got to fix this chair. Okay. So here we are on the P200 web UI. And this is really like the go-to, right? This is day 101 stuff. And oh, you know what? Let's do this differently. I don't like this setup. So I'm going to switch back here. Let's do this slightly differently. I'm going to pull up this in StreamYard, actually. And I'm going to share this tab with you. Present, share screen, Chrome tab, BirdDog P200, share. All right, so now let's add this to the stream so you can see this, and let's make me slightly bigger so that you can also see that. And I'm going to use this function. I should have done this on the YouTube thing. There's another video I want to watch. There's a guy that does a review of BirdDog NDI, and he talks about NDI. Something Vox. I can't remember his name. Anyways, he seems like a cool dude. I should have him on the show. But he talks about that. He talks about NDI. He talks about BirdDog. He talks about the Flex in particular. I want to watch his videos on here, and we can watch them together. So we'll check that out. So yeah, here is the web UI, and I'm going to jump over and just take a look at this. And now you can see my video a little bit bigger here on the left-hand side. So the first, what we want to do is we want to log into this guy. Super secret password. Default. And we're going to let this dashboard kind of load up. One of the things that you need to do is when you do this, we got to let this stream info. Am I out of date or something? No, 6.4. I'm on 6.4. Okay. So cam control. And the big ones that you're going to want to look at for coloration and what have you is obviously your exposure and your white balance. There are some picture like detail items in picture 1 and 2, noise reduction, sharpness, yada, yada, yada. people talk about how the P200 over sharpens the image, and that's just at 0. But really, you shouldn't think of it as 0 as in 0 is middle of the road. Like this is, where you should default to. You should use the whole scale. And so we give you 128 on both sides. Well, 127 on the other way, but 0 is also a number. So 128 on both directions, right? And I actually like to soften this image a fair bit. So I use down here at about -58. I feel like it gives a fair bit of detail still without losing a lot. Like you still see my hair, you can still see the frames of my glasses, but it doesn't like over sharpen it. But if we start increasing this, I mean, this doesn't look too bad, but if we start increasing this, you can kind of see things get a little bit like you can start seeing like over detail on my skin and skin texture. So use the whole range. I mean, don't just say, well, 0 should be, good enough for everybody. The point of having all of those options and that broad range of detail is so that you can pick the thing that you think looks best. And this goes back to that initial conversation we had at the beginning of the show, where customers own the product and they want to make it their own, or customers want BirdDog to own the product and do everything for them. And those are two different types of customers, and we approach those conversations differently. This is really about making it the best for you, what you think subjectively looks best. And so some of these are just, if you want to flip the image or whatever, or you want to mirror the image, whatever, you can do that stuff. But you can also manipulate the contrast and the noise. Now, when you don't have enough light, okay, and the gain is doing its thing, then you have to fight this noise reduction thing, because you have to turn up the noise reduction so that it tones down the blacks that are, things are like overcompensating in the gain realm. And that's where you get kind of dicey. I like keeping noise around 2 or 3, which means that I should have adequate enough lighting where I'm not going to need to do that. I'm not going to need to fight this noise reduction. So I think it was up at 3 or 4, somewhere in there. I'm going to keep it at 3 for now, just for middle of the road for what we're doing here today. So walking through the coloration. Now, it's going to be a little tricky here because I've actually got a green light. I'm going to flip that down. Whoops, a daisy. I'm going to flip that down so that that's not obstructing the image. You can see how different this looks. And there's a fair bit of lacking. Like there's a lot of shadows on this side of my face. The fill light that I have is a fair distance away. It should be a lot closer. Like it should be where this monitor is technically, but it's because I have this green light and that's acting as a fill. And so it's providing enough for that. So you want to be sure that your subject is lit correctly. You actually have your key light, you want to have your fill light, and then you want to have your hair light set up correctly before doing any of this. And if you're on a stage or you're doing this for a church or whatever, those lighting scenarios are going to be different. You're actually going to want even lighting. In a studio, I like to do 3-point lighting. I think it looks the best. So we're going to have our 3-point lighting good to go. And then I'm going to go to exposure first, because I want to be sure that the lighting is correct before I start manipulating the temperature of the shot. So I want to be sure that the image is lit as much as I want. And so in a studio, I'm fine with full manual. I really think you need to know what full manual means and how to use it correctly before you go full manual. And I also think you need to be careful about the way that you use full manual, because full manual literally means everything is manual. There's no automagic functions. You are manipulating everything about the shot when you are in full manual. If you don't want to be responsible for all the lighting and all the exposure and all the white balance and all of that, you need to run in some sort of semi-auto or full auto situation and be okay with those results. But if you want to tune your image, if you want to pretend like you have a colorist on your staff and they're fixing every little thing and you're getting the maximum potential out of your BirdDog product, you don't find those in automatic settings. You find those in the manual settings. And so you need to understand your lighting, what sort of shots you're going for. If you want to move the lens around and zoom in and out, you need to know what happens when that happens. And you're going to have to educate yourself a bit. And look, that's what this show is all about, right? So I can show you what those things are, but it gets pretty deep and pretty crazy pretty fast. And so just be ready for that. Just be ready for that realization and accept that reality, and we'll be fine. So full manual is fine. We're permitted to run in full manual. It's your camera after all. And we want to set the gain as low as possible, because gain is artificial gain it's artificial light, essentially. It's going to introduce busyness. It's going to introduce noise into the frame, and it's going to look grainy. It's not going to look very clean. So I need to be adequately lit. First of all, I need to have lots of lumens in the shot. And then I can tone this way down, right? The gain limit is the threshold. And so I want this to be as low as possible, which is 10.7 decibels. That's as low as it'll go. And then that basically says then, okay, in between 10.7 and 0, or is it 0 or is it 1? It's 0. What do you want the gain to be actually set at? Now, remember, manual is a hard fixture, like it's a fixture in the scope. So I can say 10 is my limit. I could also say 50 is my limit if I want, but 10 is my limit. And I want that to be as low as possible anyways, because it's going to reduce noise. And then I want this really to be as low as possible. So now I can pick something between 10 and 0. So I have it set at 3.6, which is a little bit, because 0 is a little bit too dark for this shot. And so it's all the way down, and I add a little bit of light. If I go higher than that, 7, it's like now it's all washed out and everything, right? 10, that's not good. That does not look well. And it doesn't go beyond 10 because I set my threshold limit at that. So it goes up to 10. The rest of these don't do anything. But 10 is too much. And so we're going to dial it back. And a matter of fact, I like the fact that 3.6 doesn't blow out the image. You can see the detail on my face. It's on this side. See the detail on my face. You can see the color. You can see, whatever. My beard, it doesn't look like my skin is totally blown out, right? So I set that. That's a fixed setting, gain setting on my lens. And now that doesn't change going forward. The other thing is I want my iris fully open. Fully open is going to give the maximum amount of light that this lens can take at whatever focal length I'm at. And so 1.6, f-stop 1.6 is where I want to be for this setup, because I want the lens to be, the iris to allow in the maximum amount of light. If I change this, right, the iris starts to close. And that's not good, because if it closes, then you can't see me. So we're going to set that at 1.6, and that's as wide open as that lens can go. F-stop 1.6, okay? Now, shutter speed, this depends on your situation. If you've got a ton of light, like way more than you need, you can up the shutter speed. But the general rule of thumb when it comes to shutter speed is at bare minimum, you need to be matching the frame rate that you're using. So if you're at 1080p 5994 or 1080p 60 or 1080i 50 or something like that, you need to be operating at 60 frames, 1/60 minimum. Ideally, you would be operating at double frames, which means that the camera is going to be outputting double the frames. The shutter is going to be operating at double the frames, and it's basically going to be throwing away every other one. But it is going to create, in the digital realm, especially progressive, at 60 frames, it's going to be creating what the customer is expecting, especially on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. They're all going to be expecting 60 or 50 frames, depending on what country you live in. So 1/60 is basically bare minimum. And so what I do initially is I come here and I set my frame rate at what my resolution is. So it's 1080p 60 or 1080p 5994. So I set it to 1/60 and I open the iris all the way up. And then I set my gain limit as low as I can. And if I can't do what I want to do at 3.6 or at, at 3.6 or at 7.1, if I can't make it happen at that, then I need more light in my studio. I need to physically turn on more lights, get more light going, or turn them up or get them brighter or something like that. So that is step one. Once I get the image properly lit, like something that I'm happy with, and vMix, this looks nice on my screen. On my Samsung monitor that I'm using for monitoring the show, I don't care for that, but it's actually the Samsung monitor itself. Inside vMix, I like that image a fair bit. And so now, without additional blue lights in the image, I just want to white balance this. Now, again, the temptation is, well, let's do a one push, or let's do an outdoor setting, or let's do a, whatever. Well, in a studio, I'd actually prefer you to set the appropriate user, which is basically full manual settings, because they're not going to change. The thing about this is my focal length is not going to change. I'm not going to be zooming this camera in and out and doing up close shots and then doing further away shots. That's not the purpose of my main camera. My main camera is basically going to sit still. And in this scenario, it would be great to use maybe like a PF120, because I don't need the actual moving function of the camera. But in the studio, I want that 1/2-inch lens. That's the camera I've chosen. And so here I can set the white balances and get them to look appropriate. Now, I don't want to look too green. And if the blue lights were off, I don't want to look too blue. I don't want to look like I've got a tan, an unrealistic tan, no orange man syndrome. And I don't want to look like the whole studio is on fire. So I don't want it to be super red. And so that's when that's where we find this balance. And there are actually a couple of places where these two axes actually cross, where it would make sense, where it could be like a little bit more like a warmer shot. And so the actual sliders are going to be a little bit more on the red and a little bit more on the green. But I liked a cooler shot, actually. And so with like the one that you see here, so it's a little bit more closer together, and they actually go towards the blue and towards the yellow a bit. So you would see the arrows go like separate apart a little bit more, and that would create a warmer shot, or be tighter together, and that's going to create a cooler shot. And there's actually kind of two spots on this range where you might find both of those shots look acceptable. But again, some of these automagic, you're letting the camera decide. And if you're really dialing it in and you're doing full manual, then that's where I go. And then, of course, after you get it to where you kind of want, then I like to add my color, and I like to add my fill lights, and I like the actual RGB color. And so then when we cut around to something like this, that's a unique shot where it's color, it's something different, something else to look at. If we go over to something like this, that's the P400 in low bandwidth mode. It looks similar to the PF120 that we just had up there. But again, color, there's a big wall of color in this shot, something else to look at. And it's a different angle. Now I'm talking to the P200. So again, it's kind of like the podcaster, bird on the shoulder type of thing. But there you go. So that's kind of where I go. And then I add color afterwards, and then you can dial it down or dial it up as you change the colors. Like green and blue is my color, which are cooler colors, but you could do warmer colors, yellows, reds, pinks, purples. Those ones are going to take different styles of white balance than colder colors, blues, greens. Whoa, that was a frame drop. Maybe that was just on hopefully that wasn't in the show. Maybe it was. Anyways, blues, greens, I guess purple's kind of like in between the two. If I were to do like blue and purple, like if this green one was purple, this would still be generally what I'd keep it at. But if I was to do like purple on the wall and like a warmer, like a pink or a red or something like that, then I'd want to change my white balance to be appropriate. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And let me know if I didn't cover something specifically that you would like me to talk about, because that was a great question. Happy birthday, Tom, says Go Web. It'd be nice to get a chance to participate. I'm usually busy when you're broadcasting. It's been nice. It has been nice to have you on. Thank you so much for hanging around with us today. Always a pleasure to meet new people that are doing things right, doing the NDI game correctly over there with your 4250. So, sorry, MTash says, but to clarify, all sources at a location plugged into a local switch, and then that switch has a pair of fibers running between the location and the second floor control room. The repeat of each location. Yes? Yeah. So you're bringing your pipe, basically, you're creating a trunk pipe between the location with the switch at the location with all your sources, and you're bringing them through. When you go with fiber, if it's let's just say multi-mode in this instance, but you're doing fiber, multi-mode, and you do 2 fiber cables. So you have 2 pairs of multi-mode fiber coming from location 1 to control room, and then from location 2 to control room, and then location 3 to control room. If you're doing 2 pairs from each of those, yeah, you're going to have a 10 gig backbone around the network. You could also then send that signal like to a BirdDog play or like a fleet of plays. You could send your production signal to each of those locations, by the way, over multicast. But yes, I mean, in my perfect scenario, if I was to pick and there was no budget to consider, I would do multi-mode fiber, a redundant pair, because if one gets cut or crimped or something, then you're not screwed. So always run it in pairs. And so you have 2 pairs, so 4 fibers total. That, multi-mode comes in pairs. But anyways, 2 fiber cables coming from the offsite location to your control room. And then if you've got like a switch downstairs and you want to just bring that up, Cat 6 is fine. That'd be fine. Because it's not a super long run, and you're probably not going to notice a performance depreciation from a location that close. Now, multi-mode fiber can go up to 550 meters. And so that may not be close enough. Like that may be your buildings may be too far. And you always have service loops. And so, going through the building always takes a lot of space. 550 meters to feet is 1,800 feet. So, inside buildings always double your distance, because you're going up and over through walls and yada yada. So always double your distance and inside. But yeah, I think that would be a really safe bet to ensure that your network is never the issue. That'd be great. MTash, yes. What Sony Handycam would you say is the equivalent of a P200 in image quality? Sony Handycam? I wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know Sony's line that well to know which lens would be comparable. You're certainly not going to get the black control like you are on a P200 on a Sony Handycam. Those controls are just not going to be available. I would check anything that's a Sony half-inch sensor. That's at least a starting point. But again, processing power and how it's delivered and stuff, there's a lot of questions there. The higher the shutter speed, the less motion blur. Well, and that's the thing, right? Is like if you're shooting in 1080p 30, but you're delivering 60, that would be great, because it's every other frame, and so it's going to toss half of the frames, but you're going to get a complete 30 frame image, but it's going to be a little bit blurrier than 60, and most screens are at least refreshing at 60 hertz, if not 50 or more. So you're right, less motion blur if you have a higher shutter speed. So the preferential treatment is you double the shutter speed. So if you're shooting in 1080p 60, you'd run a 1/125 or at least 1/100. And that way you get way too much data, and the image is nice and smooth. And when you do this, your hand doesn't turn into like 100 fingers all, mashed together. You can still see your actual fingers individualized, because all the frames are arriving. Now, this stream is 1080p 60, and that's being piped to YouTube, but I don't know what sort of algorithms are going on behind the scenes when it comes to StreamYard and then YouTube and then yada, yada, yada. So I don't know if it's true 60 or not, but all of my cameras are running in 60 frames. And TCP for that matter. That P200 is running in TCP. I should switch over to multicast, but it is running in TCP right now. Anyway, let's keep going here. You guys are going great with the. I think it says thanks. Thank you. I've enjoyed having you on the show. Is there a default setting restore on the camera if we get a little overzealous with the manual settings? Because we will. Yeah, so inside the web UI, there is an image reset button. It doesn't reset the network function, and it doesn't reset the presets. So if you hit image reset, let me just do you a solid here, and I will add this back to hold the phone. That's not, oh, right. Do you a solid here. It's under camera control right here. Image setting reset. So that would set it back to how it came in the box and should set everything back to 0, whatever that is. So yeah, there's that. There's that option if you need to. If you get a little overzealous, I totally understand. Oh, I'm sorry. Your screen was up there. It's there at the bottom. See, it says image setting reset right there at the bottom of camera control. So don't be confused, by the way, by the label cam control with the program called cam control. It's like people who get confused with NDI, NDI HX, NDI HX2, NDI HX3, NDI full. Gosh, we couldn't have called it something a little bit more unique, like NDI Gen 2 or NDI HX Gen 2 or Gen 3 or something like that. But anyway, I know marketing. I don't understand people, evidently, and I don't understand buying power and all that bizarreness. But man, we answer a lot of questions that people are like, I just bought I just bought your BirdDog Flexes and they're not showing my PTZ Optics NDI cameras. It's like, all right. We'll only be streaming from one location at a time from the control room. Yeah, it's really about throughput, though. Like it's just about consistency, not worrying that the network is able to handle it, all that stuff. So I get it. Obviously, fiber's best. A Cat 6 would be okay. If you could run a dual Cat 6, you could trunk those Cat 6 lines. If they're like, we're not doing fiber, we can only do, it's like, well, then run me two cables and we'll trunk those ones. And then they actually work in tandem. The other cool thing about NDI is it automatically load balances, which I didn't know until recently. So if you have two connections, for example, two Ethernet connections from a dual NIC card into the same switch, it'll load balance those. Now it'll load balance the full signal, so it'll do one signal on one and then another signal on another and go up to the switch, which is cool. But anyways, there you go. Is the P200 a Sony sensor? Find a camera with the same sensor. It is. P200 is a 1/2-inch Sony sensor. OnAir.it says, I have an idea to make small OB van based on NDI, but I'm afraid a little bit. We have somebody here from Stockholm that's doing the exact same thing. It would be nice to have the ability to build the whole system and test it for a few days. Unfortunately, there's no budget for this. Well, our buddy right here, whose name I refuse to pronounce because I'm very nervous to butcher it, he's doing this, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe just stay tuned. Maybe he'll give us a report on how it's going. We recommended BirdDog products and a 4250 and, a good solid connection to a computer, everything Cat 6. Boom. Or Cat 6A. So Cat 6 is 10 gigs, but it could be shielded or unshielded. Cat 6A is 10 gigs and shielded always. So there you go. That one's for free, folks. That one's for free. Can you make a clear point between Visca IP and NDI controls for PTZ? Sure. Visca IP is one of the standard IP protocol control methods in the industry. However, there's always a but, right? This is a big but. That big but is there's like 6 flavors of Visca IP. Seriously, people, like, I want to take the industry collectively and shake them, like take them by the shoulders and be like, stop making this so hard to support. Seriously, Visca IP, there are six or more different flavors of Visca IP. So people are like, oh, I don't worry, I have a Panasonic camera, but and a BirdDog controller. They both speak Visca IP. That's like saying, I have a PTZ Optics camera and a Flex out. They both speak NDI. Yeah, I hate to say it, but they're different flavors. And it's really stupid because it shouldn't be this way. Panasonic has its own Visca IP protocol. Sony has its own Visca IP protocol. There's a Visca IP protocol, just a baseline, which I don't think like anybody uses. And there's a handful of others. Here's something Here's a dumb piece of knowledge that you should know. Sony doesn't use the Sony Visca IP protocol. Did you know that? I found that out one day. I wanted to seriously scoop my eyes out with a spoon. I was so annoyed by that stinking Sony, the guys who wrote their own Visca IP protocol no longer use it. You know who does use the baseline Sony Visca IP protocol? BirdDog. Because we use Sony lenses. And so we integrate the Sony Visca IP protocol into our keyboard and into our cameras. You know who doesn't use it? Sony. So if you buy a new Sony controller, it's a different protocol. You can't control the BirdDog cameras with it. Sorry? So what was that again? I have a Sony lens in a BirdDog keyboard that speaks Sony Visca IP, and a Sony controller can't control it. Pardon? Panasonic can't control it. They use the Panasonic Visca IP. Except on the marketing page, it says Visca IP. Like seriously? I don't understand what on earth is happening in the industry. So, NDI came out with a way to command cameras to function with the NDI metadata. And the beautiful thing about this is that it's kind of standardized. Kind of. This is why Studio Monitor can control cameras of multiple brands, NewTek, Panasonic, PTZ Optics, BirdDog, Lumens, yada, yada, yada. Studio Monitor can control all of them. Why? Because it's using NDI metadata to send commands. Now, every developer is a little bit different, and we all integrate it a little bit differently. It's true. It's true. But BirdDog has built that metadata information off of the Sony Visca protocol, and it allows you to control cameras via the NDI source, like the NDI stream. So it's an attempt to do away with RS-422, RS-232, which is our Visca, and then also do away with this Visca IP garbage that's really annoying, and that nobody tells the customer. Nobody's like stops them and be like, well, you know, those are different protocols still. They say Visca IP, but they're different. Like, heads up. So we are trying really hard to create a control protocol that, you know, everybody can adapt to. It's not perfect, has its problems, but it's certainly better. So Ben, to go on a rant, there you go. There's a little something, something. That one's also for only the price of admission today, folks. You're getting these rants. We're going into 2 hours now. This is, are you guys purposefully riling me up? Hey, it doesn't toss half the frames. It captures the same frame for half the time. So less time for objects to move and smear across the image. Yeah, okay. Well, if you want to poke holes in the way that I'm explaining it, go ahead, NetHab. That's fine. I don't care. Hey, thanks again for the answer on my important question. You're welcome. I mean, from a networking standpoint, that's what I do. But there you go. Hi, Josh. I am also wanting to design a small OB van with 4 to 6 cameras using BirdDog Flex ins and vMix. Love to hear real-world experiences with BirdDog comms and its reliabilities. We currently use Discord for comms. Well, that's interesting. There's a concept I hadn't considered. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. BirdDog comms. I know that they're doing some stuff here to kind of like overhaul comms, because just like we're overhauling a lot of our software. And if you want evidence of that, check out Central Pro, the free trial for Central Pro. I think it's pretty cool. It's a service now and not an executable. And I think that that's honestly a genius way to do it. So bravo, BirdDog. I love that. Like the Land C, they don't use it anymore. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of, well, anyways, yes, agreed. Hey, one last thing that went by very quickly earlier. Did you say New Tech is discontinuing the TriCaster 1? I don't think they make it anymore, right? Is TC1 done? I thought they were on to TC2. Oh, hey, and before I go any further, I want to throw this in here because Balu brought this in. Let's do a little snacks on stream. What on earth is this? Oh my gosh. So Hello Kitty strawberry marshmallows. Where did you get this? Balu, this dude finds the weirdest things ever. I'm not mad. I just want to know where you came up with this. So, oh, those do smell like strawberries though. Giddy up, my friend. Giddy up. Let's give this a go. Strawberry Hello Kitty marshmallows. Brought to you by Hello Kitty. No, what's the company that made these? I think Hello Kitty is like NDI. Anybody can develop it. It just needs to have certain markings. Oh, no. Oh, wait. Hello Kitty by Sanrio. Best before 05/23/23. 05/25/23. This is quite a while. Oh, gosh. There's like jam inside. Strawberry jam that lasts until... Wait. Strawberry jam that can sit inside of a marshmallow for like 12 months? Something's up there. There's got to be synthetic. I was under the impression that TriCaster 1 was kind of done, and TriCaster 2 was the next thing. So I could be wrong. I have been wrong in the past, and I will be wrong in the future. Just not hopefully all the time. I wish you could control Sony Link with the BirdDog Flex in. That's interesting. Maybe. A little bird told me that there will be a major update for your NDI PTZ controller. Makes it way more efficient. Can you say more? A little update? What is that supposed to mean? I think, actually, if I'm not mistaken, that... Where is it here? Keyboard. Oh, looky there. NDI 5. That's a little something that snuck onto the website recently. So there's an NDI 5 update for keyboard that is currently available. Be sure you're running LTS 214 before you go to that, but there is an update for keyboard on the website right now. Be sure you're running LTS 214 before you go to that. These strawberry marshmallows, they're not bad. I mean, if someone brought these into the office and said, here, guys, here's some free marshmallows, I'd probably eat them again, which is pretty much exactly what happened today. Not 100% sure there's going to be any left in the bag for the rest of the office to try, so they have to host their own show. And whenever I ask Senseless to cover for me and host the show, he gets this terrified look in his eye. I don't know what you people did to him the last time he hosted, but he's terrified to host the show. So something's up. Something's up. I don't know. I just Googled it. It looks like the TriCaster 1 Pro is not the same thing as the TC1. Oh, gotcha. Okay. For remote shading. Oh, I see. You wish it would control, the Flex would control it for that? Interesting. I have to look into that. I don't know much about it, so I'm not too sure that that's a heavily requested feature, because just hearing about it now, and I've been taking feature requests for over 3 years. But you never know. I don't know what the BirdDog guys are up to, so who knows? Anyways, Ben, to answer your question, there is an update on the website right now. and it moves it to NDI 5. I need to get it on. I guess it is on one of the controllers out in the office. I'll play with that and maybe bring it next week to the show. We can talk about the NDI 5 update. So, no, not this one. The same little bird said, dude, what is with these birds? Control will be like RP 150, which is high standards. Who have you been talking to? I need to discuss these things with the little birdie you're talking to. Alex says, I would like to see that feature as well, but I also had HDCP issues with the Sony cams and the Flex backpacks. Sony Handycams have HDCP? Why? You're supposed to be recording original content. Why would it have HDCP on there? Oh my gosh, Aben. All right, well, I'll talk to him and see what promises he's making. Remember, Eamon's not an engineer. I don't know. He's not an engineer, but he works next to the engineer, so he probably knows more than I do at this point. So, I need to change the coloration on this camera. Get on out of here. Yeah, that's a little too red for me. To be fair, John doesn't even have a P240, which is officially an officially shipping camera. Apparently. That's weird that it has HDCP. I would not have thought that Sony puts that on their cameras. There's got to be a way to turn it off, right? You could also get an HDCP stripper, but that's allegedly not legal. So, yes, and it's quite annoying. Having to run a splitter between a camera and an encoder. Oh, there you go. You're already doing it. You got to be able to turn it off at the camera level, though. Certainly, they wouldn't. Why would they put that on a camera? Again, you're recording original. It's your content. It's not theirs. It's not copywritten. Why would they need to have that on a camcorder? That doesn't make any sense. Hey, what's up on Thursday? If we make it to Thursday, I'm hoping to have Jake on the show. But that dude is so busy that I can't guarantee that. So if he's available, I'm going to have Jake back. And we're going to talk about BirdDog Cloud. So that's for you, GoWeb. You asked for that like 2 weeks ago. And I said, yeah, I could probably arrange something. And then Jake was at Zoomtopia. And then he was like out east. And then he was down south. And then he went home for like one night. And now he's going back to streaming media, something or other. And dude needs a breather. Dude needs a vacation. But anyways, I'm hoping on Thursday Live that is the plan. Fingers crossed, everybody. Hopefully you'll have some eye candy to look at on Thursday. If someone knows where the setting is, please let me know. Yeah, that would be great. If somebody knows how to turn HDCP off on a camcorder like that, let Alex know, because that doesn't sound right. Is it me, or is the NDI 5 update for my P400 doesn't make the whole reboot routine? Wait, hang on. Is it me, or with the NDI 5 update, my P400 doesn't make the whole reboot routine when I hit reboot device? It seems like it's not rebooting at all. Reboot device only reboots the baseboard. It doesn't cycle the camera. And so to do the full reboot sequence, you have to also do the reset, the pan tilt reset function as well, which like puts it into little dance mode. Honestly, the best way to reboot a device is power cycle. I'm not too sure why we haven't addressed this in some other form, but power cycling that camera, once you make changes, you get all set up, power cycle, and that tends to set it into the correct orientation and all of that stuff. And then you set your presets and off you go. I cheat. I tell my 4250 to cycle a PoE on the port. It's much easier to reboot it that way. Well, listen to you, Mr. Elite. It's not cheating. I mean, that's like next level boss mode. Good for you. That's the way it should be done. Power cycle the PoE on your Netgear 4250. That's how you can do it. Pass it through an HDMI OREI splitter. Yeah, those are like the strippers, right? That you can strip that stuff out of. There's that. I've never had that problem. What camera? Yeah, if I'm making model, we can certainly sort that out. I've had this whole thing of water for now 2 hours, and I haven't drank any of it. And now these marshmallows are giving me a little sugar rush here at the end of the show. Good stuff. So, Tom Sinclair is going to have a show tomorrow with more BirdDog guys on it over at Eastern Shore Broadcasting. You got to go open a new tab in YouTube and type in Eastern Shore Broadcasting and subscribe to his show. And tomorrow he's going to have BirdDog Ian and the legend Eamon on his show in studio. They're going to have like a round table discussion about something. And so hang out there. I think it's in the afternoon at like 3 o'clock or something like that, 3 p.m. But stay tuned. He always puts up like a what time it'll be. So you can click notify me or whatever you want to do there. Check out Tom's channel. He's cooler than me, so you definitely should subscribe to his and ring that notification bell. But yeah, that'll be a show worth watching, and I'd probably tune in as well. But yeah, hang out over there on Tom's channel. I've always wondered, he has a pre-show and then he has a post-show. So he like answers some questions, and then his actual show, he like covers a topic. And then his post show, he answers more questions out of the chat. So that's always fun. So if you put stuff in the chat, it might show up on screen in the pre or post show. And that's a cool little format that he does. I like that. I won't copy him. I won't do pre or post. And I do live chat all the way through my show typically. But he's a VMix pro. That guy's so good at VMix, he gets free stuff from VMix. So bravo. Hey, it's a Sony MC88. At least I can't get them to work without a splitter in between the camera and the encoder. It's a bit like before you leave. Hit like before you leave. Oh, there you go. Yeah, like and subscribe. If we could push the subscribers on my birddogjohn.tv subscribers page. We're at 147 right now, y'all. If we could hit 150. I don't know. There's not I don't have anything to promise, but it's actually streaming idiots at 3 p.m. EST. Okay, so streaming, go on to YouTube, the great and almighty YouTube. Type in streaming idiots, and it should be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check that out. Tom is a great resource, and he's going to have a couple BirdDog guys on tomorrow. So that'd be fun. And we can hang out in the comment section in the nosebleeds, in the cheap seats, and bring all your BirdDog questions you're too frightened to ask me. Ask Eamon. Ask him when the firmwares will be released. He might know more than I do. Be fun to watch him answer that stuff. No. I'm trying to think through this MC88 issue, because like the Flex, for example, isn't like a computer monitor, right? The Flex doesn't send back information to say, send me this resolution. So, but the cameras typically, like, you set the resolution on the camera. It's not automatic. So you set the resolution, say, I want to output 1080 something or other, 1080p 30 over the HDMI. And then it sends that to the camera, or it sends that to the Flex, and the Flex says, oh, this is 1080p 30. It auto detects what it's being sent. But it doesn't work the other way. It doesn't say, for example, it's not like, this is a problem with the Flex out, is that when you plug a Flex out into a, how do I know? It's a problem with the Flex in. You plug a Flex in. Actually, let's go more basic than this, because you have a loop out on a Mini. So on a Mini, you plug that into the computer, and then you plug the loop out into a monitor. The Mini doesn't say, send me 1080p 60 to the computer. You have to tell the computer manually, send 1080p 60 like a camera, and then it does it. I've been working with the guys for quite a while on the EDID module because it's going to be a thing with Wallplate, where Wallplate's going to need to tell the computer, send me 1080p 60 always. And then the NDI goes up to the decoder on the screen, right? But anyways, that's for another show. But if I may, the reboot used to work well with the previous versions by only hitting reboot device. You could see the pan tilt routine and the last changes were then took into account. I don't remember ever hitting a soft reboot device button on a web UI and it doing the boot up dance. That is the pan tilt reset function, which only happens on startup. So I don't, so here's what's happening. When you click reboot device, it's restarting the baseboard and the NDI chip. When you hit restart video, that's restarting just the NDI chip. When you power cycle, it's initiating a power up sequence, which then turns on the onboard memory, and the thing has to do a pan tilt reset so it knows what coordinates. So when you say, turn or like go to preset 1, it knows exactly where to go because it knows where 0 is, right? X and Y axis. It knows where 0 is. It knows where home is. That happens if you, for example, I don't recommend doing this, by the way. If you go to the camera and turn it while it's just on, now it has no idea where it's pointed. I mean, it thinks it knows, but it's off by whatever it is you changed manually. So people are like, oh, somebody turned the camera by accident. Somebody came in and turned it. And now when I call a preset, it doesn't go to the right place. It's like, well, you have to do the pan tilt reset, which you could do on the keyboard, by the way, or you have to power cycle the camera. And then it will redo the dance. So, yeah, there you go. Because we're all idiots in streaming sooner or later. It's true. We're all just trying to figure it out. And Tom is the chief idiot? Man, it just seems so wrong to call you that. It's 12:30 a.m. in India time. Oh, you have to watch the replay. Watch the replay. EDID is ridiculously important. No, preach it, man. You are singing to the choir. The Studio and the Mini both accept the cameras fine. It's just the Flex In and the backpack. Well, that's interesting. That is interesting. It's basically the same SDK. I did try all the manual settings of the Flex as well. So setting it to 1080p 50 and tried all the different color modes. Interesting. So I use a Sony AX700 NX80. Both of them work great. Very interesting. This is all good info. This is like Discord where everybody's like sharing their informations. Are you using 4K? Alex says. Now I'm facilitating a conversation. I'm like the middleman, the unnecessary middleman between these two talking about their Sony cameras. Yeah, maybe check what the output settings are. What's the difference between a Flex Out and Play apart from the 4K? One is an ARM process and one is an actual NDI silicone FPGA chip. So Flex Out is going to be way more appropriate for things that are timely, necessary for time, whereas the ARM process is going to be slightly slower, still going to be able to accept full NDI, which is what I'm doing literally right here in the studio today. But I can, it's a little slower than a Flex Out. So speed is king in a lot of scenarios, and Flex Out is great for that, especially when you have it on a monitor or you have it attached to a projector or a TV or something like that you're doing iMag or you're doing live. But if time is not super critical, a Play is a very inexpensive way to do the same thing. And yeah, there's a couple of bells and whistles and features, but essentially on the NDI side, that's what's going on. It's great having commentary on the conversation. You are welcome. While I eat these strawberry Hello Kitty marshmallows. They're not bad. I wish I could do 4K 50 frames. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think that's a thing right now, right? Okay. I got to go do some work. So I will be back on Thursday, and I'm hoping to have a guest that will be able to talk in depth about BirdDog Cloud. So synchronize your watches for Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern time here in the U.S. We will be having a chat again. And if Jake can't make it, we're still going to hang out. So I will set up the stream. Once I kind of confirm with him, I'll set up the stream announcement. It'll show up on YouTube. Be sure that you like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. I'm getting that routine down now. Over on BirdDogJohn.tv, because that is where we hang out. Everything I do in the support office shows up there and at a few other places. Be sure that you hang out with us over there. It would be a great help. We're trying to get to 150 subscribers, which is a whole lot of not really that many, but it means a lot to me, and that's good stuff. So appreciate all of you guys who have done that. Thank you so much. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Hopefully you're doing well and you're having a good rest of the day. Hey, thanks for the great stream. Oh, you were very welcome. Thanks for joining us. You are very welcome. Hey, great job, John. Oh, this is praise from Caesar, everybody. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that. And I will try and crash your party tomorrow. Yeah, we're looking forward to having a busy week, but hopefully a productive week. My wife is going out of town for a few days, so on Thursday you're going to see a frazzled father. That's why I need a guest on the show to carry the conversation, because I might be fried. Actually, that'll be at the very beginning of when she's away, so I should be okay at that point. But hopefully I make it on time. If I don't arrive for the show, you all know something went down. That's all. That's all I'm going to say about that. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for giving me the little shout outs here. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate that. And we will be back on Thursday. So definitely plan to join us again. It will be a good show regardless of what we plan to do. So yeah, come back on Thursday, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here at BirdDogJohn.tv. We'll give you a hand with whatever it is that you need. If you got NDI questions, of course, definitely bring those along, especially for those of you who detest putting in tickets. If you need an answer quicker than that, though, help at BirdDog.tv is the place to be. I've got a team of people that work at that desk now that are great at what they do, and they answer tons and tons of questions every single day. So if you have technical questions about a product that you own, reach out to us there. If you need pre-sales help and you want to talk about products and learn about what they can do, we got a sales team that's stellar at hello@birddog.tv, and they are all around the world. They can give you a hand in real time in your time zone. So be sure that you reach out to BirdDog. Let us know how we can give you a hand. We'd love to get you set up for that. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourself and to each other. Look after one another. We'll see you in a couple days. Bye, guys. It's been great.
Kids, you tried your best, and you failed miserably. The lesson is, never try.